This 535i E60 is the project that I recently finished, and now the new owner would like to add a few modern features to bring this E60 up to date. So in today's video, we're going to be installing a touchscreen wireless Apple CarPlay system and Rearview camera from Bimmerdirect. So let's get into it on Rebuild or Revival. So here's the system we're going to be installing today. As you can see, it does come with its own screen as it is touchscreen. You've got the harness that integrates this system into your factory radio. All of your factory controls with iDrive will work with this system. You've got the aux cable. This audio will play through your auxiliary in your factory radio. Here's the USB cable that you can plug into instead of using wireless, but this is wireless for Apple CarPlay. Here's the reverse camera, which is integrated into the trunk latch, which is how it comes from the factory if you do have a reverse camera as an option. The only wiring or splicing you'll have to do is to get the reverse signal to the camera somehow. And I was able to get a coupon code for you guys, so use the coupon code REBUILD15. I'll put it up here on the screen for $15 off their entire site. So now let's get to the install. To gain access to the factory radio, we'll first remove this trim panel, disconnect these buttons, remove the climate control and trim panel, and disconnect its 3 connectors. Remove this lower trim panel and disconnect the 2 connectors on the back. Now we can remove these 4 Phillips and pull the factory radio out. And we'll disconnect all of the connectors on the factory radio. There we are. Now we can unscrew the 2 T10s that hold the factory screen in and remove it, then disconnect the connectors on the back. Now we can start to install the Bimmerdirect harness. One thing we'll need to modify with the original is remove the fiber optic cables from your original connector and install them into the same position in the Bimmerdirect harness. It's a pretty simple connector. You just lift this tab up right here. And then the connector will slide out. So now we'll install that into the same position in the Bimmerdirect harness. Just like that. And now you can plug your original harness into the Bimmerdirect one. Here are the connections for the camera. Some of them are. The 2 that we're going to be using are these 2. And this RCA is easy. It just plugs into here. But for this one, we are going to need to solder this together. Instead of using the power off of the reverse light, we're going to use this one right here. I decided to solder these wires, but you can use any type of connection you want. So we'll just strip both wires, slide the heat shrink over, twist the wires together, solder them, and then slide the heat shrink down. When I have connections like these RCAs, I like to use some electrical tape, and I like this fabric style. It looks kind of OEM. It's kind of like this stuff here, but I just want to tape them together so that connection doesn't come loose over time. Just like that. Now we need to feed this harness up to where the screen goes, and I'm going to feed it up here to the right. And then it should come out right in this area here. You also need to run this USB up to the screen as well, and then you'll need to figure out a place to put this. We're going to run it up the same path. There we go. So now we can install the screen because we have all of the connectors that we're going to need for the screen up here. Then we've got the USB, this, and the main harness, just like that. So on how this screen fits in, you put these bottom tabs in first and then rotate it up. And we're just gonna leave that loose for now. I wanna test the screen, so I'll reconnect all of the factory connectors on the radio and the new Bimmerdirect main harness. All right, now that we've got it all hooked up, we're gonna test the functions of it. To get back to the normal BMW system, you hold down the menu button on the iDrive controller. All right, now we are back into the original system. It looks like the screen is a little bit offset. I don't know if there's something we can do about that. There probably is. So I will figure that out later. Okay, now we're gonna start to run the camera wire where we need it to go, which is back through the dash and back to the back of the car. First, I'll remove a few trim panels like this one below the glove box and disconnect the two connectors on the back. Now I can feed the camera wiring down underneath the glove box. I'll also pull the USB port down here as well. Now I'll remove the passenger door sill plate and kick panel and make sure to grab these two clips that stayed in the car. All right, now we need to pull the back seat out. So you just push back and then lift up and it'll pop out. Then feed the seatbelt buckles through while you pull the seat out. Now we're gonna remove the rear seat back. We'll just unbolt a couple of these T45s here and over there. Now there are a couple of T30s right behind where those seatbelt brackets were, one there and one there. Now we'll pry open these two little latches on either side of the seat. All right, now we're inside the trunk and there are two latches that need to be unhooked. And how you do that is you get inside this little notch here and kind of rotate it. And then you'll see the latch, it's almost like a door latch unhook. Now the seat back is free and you can remove it. All right, now we'll need to remove this trim piece here. There is a Phillips right in here. All right, now we'll pull this cover off so we can get to these two panels. Now this panel will come off. All right, now a T40 to remove this hook. And now this should be free. Now that we've got all the trim panels and the rear seat removed, we can start running the reverse camera wiring to the back. I'll just zip tie it to the harness here and then tuck it behind the carpet until we get back by the rear quarter panel. To get the wiring in the trunk, we'll just zip tie it to this harness here and run it along the same path. Now this wire runs inside of the hinge. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna run it on the outside of the hinge as neat as possible. So you wanna give yourself enough slack if you're gonna do it this way to where when the hinge opens, you've got enough wire here to kind of move around and so it's not gonna hit anything. So I'm just gonna zip tie it to this wire here and that should give us enough slack. Now we'll remove the trunk lid panel so we can run the wire underneath it. It's just a bunch of these little clips. There are also two Phillips screws here that are covered in carpet that you can barely see that need to be removed. You'll also need to disconnect the emergency trunk release handle. And then once you move the panel down a little bit, there is one connector here for the light, and then this is for the toolbox lid. And just twist that and turn it. And then you can just pop this whole light out like that. Now we'll just continue to run the wire all the way up near here until we get the camera mounted, and then we can connect. So here is how it hooks up. This is for the latch, so we can plug that in later. The camera gets its power from this one. That's how we ran it. The ground will have to ground somewhere here on the trunk, and then this is the video signal. We'll hook the power up. This is just for testing purposes. And now we can hook the video. I'm gonna make my own ground right here on the trunk lid with a self-tapping screw. Let's go ahead and start it. And let's go into reverse. No signal. That's not good. The reason we are getting the no signal issue on the screen is because of this green wire here on the camera. This wire needs to be cut if you are not running multiple cameras for a 360-degree setup, which we are not. Once the green wire is cut, you'll see the rear view camera feed as it should be. There is also a white wire, which when this wire is cut, it adds these distance lines to the screen. If you cut this one and don't like the lines, you can simply splice it back together and the distance lines will be removed. Now we'll test the camera after cutting that green wire. So we'll go into reverse, and there you can see our camera is there. So our backup camera is working. Now we just need to put everything back together. First, we need to finish installing the camera back here with the trunk handle. So we need to remove the old one. To get the original handle out, you're just going to stick one of these pry tools in on the top and release these two clips here on top. Then you can just pull it out. Now we'll pop the new one in. We'll just connect the one connector here. Feed this harness through. Clip the bottom in and then rotate it up. Now I'll just clean all this wiring up by zip tying it to this harness before reinstalling the trunk lid cover panel. I'm going to be replacing this strut because the trunk lid opens too fast, so I got a replacement. Looks like you just need to remove this clip and then the front one will slide off. Now we'll rotate the new one on. And reinstall the clip. Easy peasy. Kind of bounces a little bit, which I don't really like. I guess that's better than slamming open. Now we can put this panel back on. Now I'll just clean up underneath the rear seat before reinstalling it. So now we just need to get these rods popped back into place. I think you can actually do that. There we go. Now we just need to make sure those latches that are in the trunk are latching. All right, now we'll get all the seatbelt buckles bolted in. First, you need to bolt in these that just go to the seat. Now we'll go back in with this trim piece here. If any of these clips stayed in the car, you could just pull them out and slide them into their spot on the trim piece. Now we can reinstall the rear seat bottom. Sometimes it helps to use the seat belts to pull the buckles through the seat. Now I'll just reinstall the rest of the trim panels that I removed. And reinstall all of the stereo components and dash panels. Okay, I want to go over some features with this thing. I've got it all installed. Everything is working properly. So let's go to the backup camera. We'll just put the car in reverse. With this, the lines are going to turn, which is cool. I don't know if that's going to work. Let's go all the way. Huh, that's not working exactly how it should. There we go. Ah, it just needs to. Okay, there we go. That's working good. So we could turn off some of these lines. You can adjust brightness, contrast. All of the factory sensors still work over here on the side, which is really nice because I like this kind of radar type factory parking sensors, so I do like that. Now let's go out of here. And obviously we've got CarPlay, so let's connect that. You're just going to connect to this, and there we go. We've got our Apple CarPlay here, podcasts, GPS, but everything is working here on CarPlay. So now let's go back. What else do we have here? Car info. Okay, I still need to mess with the settings to get this resolution right. So let's try and do that now. To fix the resolution issue, we'll go into settings, factory settings, input the factory code, go to model selection, and toggle between a few different models until we pick the right one that fixes our resolution problem. So first I tried this one right here and then went back into the factory CIC BMW system. And as you can see, the resolution is still off. So we'll go back into the Bimmerdirect settings and try another one. Let's try that one. Hey! There we go. Okay, so that was the one. Wireless CarPlay, we have hooked up, USB, Android Auto USB, we have nothing hooked into there. DVR, I don't think we have anything in there, maybe that would be like a dash camera. SD card, you can put an SD card in here if you wanted to, don't know why you would. This is the base model. Some of the other models have where you can play video. This you may be able to play video through maybe a USB or CarPlay. So that's pretty much the settings for that. But now, as you can see, we still have all of our typical BMW CIC settings here. All right, now I need to run the aux cable back through the center console to the aux plug that is in the center console. And I've already popped it out. I actually just used a screwdriver from the side of the center console, fed it up along the console, found that I was touching the back of that, and just pushed it out. So now I'm just gonna push it out the rest of the way. I know that's not how you're supposed to do it, but it was a lot easier for me to do it that way. Okay, now we're gonna pull the aux port out. The aux port is this blue one right here. We'll just unclip the two clips on either side and then pull it out of the housing. So now I'm just gonna feed the aux cable along up under the lip of the center console until I come out into the compartment here where the aux port is. What I'm gonna do is stick the screwdriver down, and then it came out right there. Now I'll just tape the aux cord to the screwdriver and pull it up through into the compartment. Then I'll connect the aux cable to the port, tape it all up, and shove it back down inside of the center console and pop the USB and aux port housing back into place. All right, so we're gonna test the aux, make sure it is connected in the CarPlay system. So we'll go over here and let's just play anything. So now we'll just pop this all the way back in, just like that. So now we have no aux in over there, it's just an empty hole. Now I'll just tuck the aux cable wiring up under the center console and put the trim panel back over the top. There we go. All right guys, so that's the end of the install. I've got a couple of little things to do while this car is back in the shop. One is install a splash shield. I never put a splash shield under the engine on this car, and once I brought it back in, I just realized some of the oil lines just sit really low, and the power steering lines, I think, and I don't want the new owner to hit anything on the bottom of this and pop one of those lines, so I need to go find a splash shield and install that. All right guys, so I'm at the local pick-a-part. I've got my pad that I can lay on, my bag of tools. So let's go in and see if we can find that splash shield. All right guys, check it out. I think I found it in this 06 530. There's one piece right here. And then this second piece right here. So let's pull these out, make sure they're them. Check this thing out guys. Yeah, I think this is a 530 or a 528, not sure. But here they are, check them out. That's it, you got the front one, and then the back one that goes all the way back to the tranny. So we're good. All right guys, I was also checking out this black E90 right here because the driver's side mirror on mine, the motor is not working. I pulled it off, pulled the cap off. It's not a motorized one. I even tried to look it up on mDecoder, but I couldn't find that premium package in there. But anyway, so it wasn't the right one, so we're not gonna take it. So I'm about to put the splash shields on under the engine, and I noticed that the oil level sensor is leaking oil on the oil pan. So what I'm gonna try and do is put a vacuum here where you fill the oil and create a vacuum or suction in the crankcase, and hopefully be able to change that seal under there, I'll show you in a second, without any of the oil draining. Like if you need to replace the seal on a drain plug, you can do this, but I think the oil level sensor hole is gonna be too big, but let's try it anyway, so let's lift the car up. All right, so we've got our drain pan underneath just in case. So let's turn on the vacuum and we'll pull this sensor out, which is wet, you can see. And once this car gets driven more, it will leak a lot more than that. Now I'll replace the seal. So I had a subscriber reach out to me about the repair I made to the sway bar mounting bracket on the subframe. He's having the same issue and was wondering if I could cut him a new bracket, but I don't have the template anymore for the one that I made. So I'm gonna remove the subframe out of the way, trace the bracket that I made, and cut him a new one. If you wanna see the full video on this repair, I'll put a link here up on the screen. All right, so I cut out the template, I traced it onto here. I won't do the holes yet. I'll wait until I cut this out and then I'll put the bracket over the top and then cut the holes out. So let's go cut this out. All right guys, I did not hit record, but I just cut this shape out with this bandsaw. Now I'll just clean the edges up with the bench grinder and trace the holes and drill them out. All right, check it out. I just put it up here to test fit it. Holes are both going in. Now I'll install the splash shields that I just picked up. If you notice, the reinforcement plate is not on. I forgot to install it, so I had to remove the splash shield and reinstall the reinforcement plate later on. All right guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. If you wanna go check out what Bimmerdirect has to offer for your BMW or Audi, hit the link below, it's bimmerdirect.com, and use the coupon code REBUILD15 for $15 off their entire site. The owner's coming back to pick this thing up and I gotta give it a wash because it's been sitting outside my shop for some time and it's really dusty. So thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share this video with someone, and I'll see you all in the next video.